What is up, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of the Schmozone podcast. I'm Dave Schmulenson, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Helen.
Helen. It's great to be back for the second one.
Yeah, happy to be back, and still a bit jet lagged, but I'm okay. Kind of sick.
You're definitely sounding a little bit sick and tired. Tell everybody what our past 48 hours was just like.
So after we covered the fight, post-fight presser finished about 3 a.m. And then right after we Ubered to the airport. Our flight was at 5 a.m.?
5 a.m., 5:50 a.m.
Yeah, we got home 10 a.m. Vegas time. And then we tried sleeping yesterday, but I was already kind of sick. So here I am today.
There you are. You are a trooper. Taking that oregano oil that I told you about in pill form, it helps you. Anytime you're feeling a little sick, make sure you take 3 to 4 pills of oregano oil. Could get it at Sprouts or Amazon. I swear by it. It's kept me healthy the past couple of years.
But I'm still sick.
You didn't take it quick enough. Well, we just came back from Houston, UFC 247. I guess we should address that because we covered it. We were sitting cage side for it. A little controversial on a couple of the fights there, especially with the judges. A lot of people in MMA are talking about it. I think we should address it.
Of course. We were sitting cage side. We saw everything. What was interesting was after round 3, I turned over to and I was kind of debating who was winning that round, right?
You were talking about the John Jones-Dominic Reyes fight.
Of course.
The main event, round 3.
Not the Ilir Latifi one and not the Andrea Lee, sorry. Even though I feel like, obviously, those are slightly controversial, but I do agree with the Derek Lewis decision.
Yeah? Well, here's my take on everything. We obviously weren't listening to the broadcast because we were in the building watching it, but after rewatching it earlier today and hearing Joe Rogan, John Anik, and Dominic Cruz literally calling this fight, and I think it was during the Angela Lee and Lauren Murphy fight, they pointed out that one of the judges wasn't even looking at the fight, was staring down and looking at their phone, and I have a huge problem with that. You have one job as a judge, and that's to pay attention to the action going on inside the cage, and to be looking down at your phone. You are totally jeopardizing the integrity of the sport, and you are, honestly, your decisions are going to impact the futures of all those fighters, and that really bothers me.
But not only the future of the fighters, it's of their families, and I just see it as a slap in the face, and also disrespecting these pro athletes that train, that have to go through what they go through in these camps to literally have their future in these 3 judges' hands, and then you mess up a decision or you score it way off. It's like, really, dude? What are you looking at?
Yeah, and just for the record, I had Dom Reyes winning the fight. I think he won that 3rd round. I had him winning 3 rounds to 2, but I don't think it's completely terrible. It's not like, oh my God, Dom Reyes got robbed. I just think that, hey, Thiago Santos in John Jones' last fight, he won by split decision, John Jones. I think Dom Reyes fought him, gave John Jones his best fight since that Gus fight, the first one back in 2013. I don't like how we got there. I don't think it was a unanimous decision victory. I'm okay with the outcome. I just hate that the entire night kind of has this blanket of, was this scored properly? And how do you score a takedown? You look at the Ilir Latifi fight. You and I both agree Derek Lewis won that fight, but Ilir Latifi scored takedowns in that fight. He took him down, Derek Lewis, a couple of times. John Jones scored 2 takedowns. But Dominic Reyes popped right back up.
Yeah.
Dom Reyes landed more significant strikes, landed more strikes altogether. It's just, where's the integrity? Where's the continuity in the judging in Houston Saturday evening?
Exactly. But what was kind of, in my opinion, I just felt like because we've unfortunately seen this happen before, right? First thing that came to my mind was a lot of fans who may have thought, did Johnny Hendricks beat GSP back in 2013, or even the Gustafson John Jones, their first fight as well. And so when it was going to obviously decision, and as we were waiting for the judges to read it, unfortunately, because of previous fights and everything that's the scoring, how it went on in the past, in my mind, I thought, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they read it for John Jones. And it is because of the inconsistent scoring, even in the past, and some of, those controversial decisions that's automatically made my mind think that way, which it shouldn't be that way. How I scored the fight, yeah, I gave Dominic Reyes a slight edge, but to myself, as it went to that decision, I was thinking I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up reading it for John Jones.
Look, the sport's young. What, 26 years? The UFC's been in existence here. They need to evolve the scoring system over time. They still use the boxing scoring system. I think a lot of people in our industry are calling for a change and the judging process. Over time, I think that will happen. But look, at the end of the day, you and I have talked about this a number of times. We are not analysts. We are opinionists. Unless you've played professional sports, you're not an analyst. There's a lot of people that call themselves analysts of sports. It drives me nuts. I think the big network organizations in sports, they've kind of blurred the lines here. But my take is this. Your opinion is no better than my opinion, and my opinion is no better than your opinion unless you've played professionally or have actually been inside the cage and done it at the professional level. So at the end of the day, we can debate this back and forth as much as we want, but we're just opinionists, and if you want to hear our opinions, great. That's nice. We'll give it to you. But, we can move on if you want.
Or at the end of the day, how about they run it back?
They should run it back. They should. And by the way, Helen, I appreciate how much of a trooper you are. But in your past, you've done a lot of crazy, crazy traveling and some graveyard shifts. So I know you're a trooper. Through all this traveling, it's been a bender for us. We were in LA, then we were in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and then we're in Houston. Luckily, this week we're just going to relax and be in Vegas, but you're a trooper. I appreciate you doing that.
Well, thank you. But last year, actually, I was in 4 cities in 2 days covering events, like 4 different events. I remember I did like an Americon interview the day before I did another boxing interview. Then I flew city to city. Then I went to American Top Team and had to fly back that same day to make a Vegas Golden Knights game and cover that. So I'm just thinking what I put my body through, right, over the past few years. And then, like you said, working the graveyard waitressing shifts, 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. So yesterday it kind of reminded me of how I felt after working those graveyard shifts. I don't know how I was able to stay a lot healthier when I was younger, but I'm not even that old. Even though some people may think so.
Yeah, we did read the comments, I guess, from the YouTube channel. Appreciate all your love and tuning in, everybody. Shout out to the fans. We really appreciate everything, all the great comments from the first episode. We're going to try to make it better every single time. Yes. I am a year and a half older than Helen, for the record, by the way. Fun fact. I know I look like I'm 20 or 22, but I'm a year and a half older than Helen.
And people have been thinking I was 15 years older than my age since I was 18. True story. So hopefully one day that'll end and I'll start aging backwards.
Hey, yeah, definitely. I'd much rather look younger than older. And we both want to live long, healthy lives, active lifestyles. So.
And we're grateful to do what we love. And I think that's why we're able to always be on the go and be in so many places at once and do these long travels. Because at the end of the day, we're very grateful to do what we love.
Young, nimble. There's a fine line between knowledge and experience. Obviously, we've spending the majority of our 20s. We're in the upper end of those 20s. I'm running out of time in my 20s.
Almost your birthday.
I don't want to talk about it. But, we hustle and we work hard. There's a fine line between knowledge and experience where we may not have as much experience, we certainly have the knowledge. And that's just something that I wanted to point out. We have a great show lined up today as well, by the way.
We do.
We really do.
We literally have the whole effing show.
Yes, because I'm going to kick it to an interview I just had with number 15th ranked UFC lightweight, Alex Hernandez, the Great. Alex the Great Hernandez. We just interviewed him backstage Saturday night at UFC 247, even though it has the UFC 248 backdrop behind us, which is cool, by the way.
Yes.
Here March 7th in Las Vegas. Can't wait for that fight. Stylebender, Yoel Romero.
Joanna
Young, Jacek, Song Wei. Oh, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait for that fight card. But we're going to kick it to him shortly. I'll preface kind of how that all went down. And then in studio, we have Rob Van Dam, RVD. Oh, you do it well right there. Can't wait for him. Wrestling, huge pastime for both of us. Grew up watching the WWE, WCW, ECW.
Yes, even growing up, I wanted to be a pro wrestler until I got scammed or almost scammed. So, yeah, that was interesting.
I do know about that story. We can get into that. But how about we don't want to leave our guest RVD hanging too long. So let's just talk about how kind of get in character for the Alex Hernandez interview. Very, very charismatic guy. You were behind the camera watching that one. What did you think?
Yeah, sorry. You were looking at me and I'm like, huh? It's the cold. It's made me a few seconds behind. But I thought that was a great interview. Yeah, very animated. Some of the things he said, I kind of paused like, okay. I think he kind of paused in that interview as well. So, yeah, it was a fun interview. I know he's been getting a lot of flack because of the Donald Cerrone, those comments and what he said, if you haven't seen some of those scrums already. But you kind of mentioned those scrums in your interview with him. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's a very colorful kid, 27 years young. Sky's the limit for his potential. He wants to fight for a world title in 2021 in a loaded lightweight division in the UFC. He's got to get some wins, though. He just came off a win after losing that Donald Cerrone match.
He wants to be on the Ferguson card.
Yes, he wants to fight.
I don't blame him.
April 18th. It was a fun interview. I actually didn't think it was a good interview till I went back and rewatched it because he just went toe-to-toe with me as the Schmo.
Here's the thing. You never think your interviews are good until after you watch it. But then because I'm running the camera, I always tell you, oh, that was a great interview. Even your Yoel interview, you didn't think that was good. And then there's almost 500,000 people that watched it.
That's the goal. We'll get to 500,000. That'll be great. But let's play that Alex Hernandez interview, and then we're going to just jump right into it with our guest today, RVD. Here we go, Travis. Let's play that interview. This is the Schmo with the Pro, the number 15th ranked lightweight in the UFC, 13-2, born in 92, Alexander the Great Hernandez, here at UFC 247. How we doing?
I'm doing great, man. I love Houston. I've been here all week just banging screw and eating barbecue.
Yes.
I love it. Yes, sir.
Sporting a brown leather jacket and your Black Beast t-shirt.
Had to put on for the city, man. I do love Derek, and I had to get the vintage fit. It's been a pretty grimy week, so I thought I'd rep so.
Yes. Speaking of grimy week, you were doing a scrum over at the Enzo Gracie gym. You were talking about the Donald Cerrone hype that you had for that rematch, and you lost the lust. Thought he gave up in that performance?
I did lose the lust, and I was underwhelmed, but I don't really care to carry around anyone's name with me, man. I don't even care to bring this shit up. I've got one sole purpose, one focus, and that's the trajectory of my career, upward. And I'll let my credentials carry that, not piggybacking on old shit and gossip. But, yeah, that was an underwhelming.
And you talk about a top 10 opponent, L.I. Aquinta. You talked about his name and your opinion. How likely is that going to happen?
I don't know, man. I've been sending a lot of chatter through the airwaves, and it's been white noise back on my end. So I've called out every available person, to my manager, to the matchmakers, Ally Aquinta, Gregor Gillespie, Diego Ferreira, Islam Makhachev. Feed me. I need a fight. I need a fight this spring. I'm ready. And, again, I'm looking forward. I need 3 fights this year to put me back on track for my belt in 2021. And that's it. That's all I'm looking at. So, again, it's been a stalemate with the matchmakers. It's been white noise in the reception on who I've got coming back to me, but I'm eager and I'm ready. This is the year of fornication. I'm here to fuck 2020 up in the division of the lightweight. Let's go.
We like that. We hear the excitement in your voice. Put your Nostradamus hat on, finger in the wind. What's the fight card that you're going to be fighting in for your first one in 2020?
April 18th, Khabib Ferguson, baby.
Brooklyn.
I got to run it back. I got to run it back. I got to get right with Brooklyn.
That's right. You got to redeem yourself.
I got to redeem myself. I got to get right with Brooklyn.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I like to hear it. Now, 155 pounds. Is that going to be
from the ground?
The long-term future of Alexander the Great?
Yeah, I believe so, man. I was standing next to Masvidal upstairs earlier, and I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going to 170. So I feel cozy at 155. I'm very happy here.
What's Masvidal saying to you upstairs?
That I'm the future, I'm the best. He admires a lot of things I do. And so, it's very, very professional.
Who do you look up to the most in the sport right now that's doing things the right way when they get a chance to dance inside the cage?
Who do I look up to most?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even ashamed to say it, man. Connor's been a long-time inspiration of mine, and I'll be the first to admit it. So, yeah, when I watch McGregor perform and I watch what he's accomplished, it's inspired me. It inspired me many a time when I was still in the business world, coming back over and making my transition to the fight game. So, McGregor's always been kind of my number one. I guess what's the word? I hate to say hero, but he's kind of my fanboy guy in the division, and it would be a dream to dismantle and to mount him from the top.
We keep winning fights. Maybe you'll get your opportunity. We'll get you out of here on this.
Yes, sir.
What can we expect from you in the streets of Houston tonight if the Black Beast gets a W?
Ignorant action. I've been saying it's a screw-stin state. So we act wild out here. I've got some good friends out here. I'll hit Derek Lewis up afterwards, and we'll make a muck of Houston.
Making a muck. He's the pro. I'm the Schmo here at UFC 247. Show the camera that shirt.
Black Beast.
We're out. Welcome back, everybody. That was Alex Hernandez. He wore the Black Beast t-shirt. The Black Beast got the W, supporting the hometown guy. We have Rob Van Dam, RVD, back in studio. A man that really doesn't need an introduction. He's a wrestling champ in 3 different organizations. Had an amazing documentary come out last year, Headstrong. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I think we watched it on Netflix.
We did.
This is my first time interviewing you as myself.
Yes.
The only time before.
Who are you?
First in-studio guest for the Schmozone podcast. Welcome.
Right on. Yeah. You can go ahead and use the word legend if you would like. I'm comfortable with that.
You are a legend.
Absolutely.
Been doing this for multiple decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've told you before, I was a big fan of you, watching all your wrestling growing up. And then you inspired me to 5-star Frog Splash, my younger brother, from our couch.
Yeah.
I got in trouble by my parents, but
Yeah, you're not supposed to try this at home.
I tried anyway.
Yeah, that's how I got started too. And I'm also getting comfortable with the fact that pretty much everybody grew up watching me. Like I'm
Not to creep you out, but
no, but I mean like especially like all the other wrestlers, they like it's like a fact. And so I've taken a new position recently as to pointing out that when I was on my way up, I was wrestling, the average wrestler was probably 250 pounds, 260 pounds. And I was the only one doing like backflips off the guardrail and insane stuff, that I was trying to think of stuff I hadn't seen before and trying to make it exciting because I wasn't that big, people didn't even believe I was as heavy as I was because, I didn't look it. And so nowadays everybody does, RVD moves, and they have taken it to new heights. Added a lot of gymnastic ability, literally a twist here and there, and but the whole style is such now that it's hard to even stand out, even if you do a springboard double. I don't even know what's that thing called? A gainer on a diving board. What do they call it? A shooting star press, I guess, to the floor. Anyway, people are doing all this, and they're not even gonna really stand out as much as like the dive I did from the top rope out to the crowd on Bam Bam Bigelow. Like that that footage is like immortal, but there are people that are doing stuff like, holy crap. But it was a different time then, you know, like you had to get that stuff in while you were protecting the business. It was still a closed door society, whereas now, you know, the first rule is just, I don't know if it's safety first or what, how they teach people now, but they're not catering to a crowd that wants them to protect the business so much. You know what I mean? But that makes it another interesting agenda while you're doing it. But what I'm saying is a lot of the stuff that people are doing now they couldn't have done back then because that wouldn't have worked against Stan Hansen and some Kamala, something like that, because the average wrestler now is like 180 pounds or something probably, and they all grew up watching me. Now the whole style is more acrobatic.
Yeah, you've been doing this for multiple decades. I remember what stands out from our interview last year when no one knew who the Schmo was. We talked about how back in 1992, you kind of inspired DDP to do his DDP yoga because he watched you stretching behind the scenes. Obviously, you've done a tremendous job keeping yourself in shape.
That's as OG as it gets. I inspired DDP.
You inspired DDP yoga. That's what you said. And you've been able to stay relatively healthy and you're active. You just did what, 3 straight nights of Impact Wrestling and you're sitting here today?
Yeah.
Wow.
People don't realize how great of an athlete a professional wrestler has to be, and the durability. Like they want to point to, oh, wrestling's fake, it's this and that, but you've come from the days and age where you took real steel chairs right to the dome.
Well, and even, it took me a while to even get to that point. Like that's where a lot of people were seeing me for the first time, but, probably a good 8 years before that, when I was training with the original Sheik to just break in. Back then, you had to get beat up and stretched every which way just to prove that you were tough enough to be in the ring. And, they tested you for leverage and, your control over your body and stuff like that because some people are just hopeless. But, you you leave your first several workouts, at least back then, very, very sore, not just rubbery legged, but rubbery bodied, trying to get your keys in your ignition or something. And it used to be a lot more like that because, like I said, it was like closed door. It was more like the mafia. Like they didn't talk about it to anybody on the outside. People asked questions, they'd get smacked, and that was, there's all kinds of documentation of that. And now it's not like that at all. Once everybody decided it was entertainment, the standards went up. They said, okay, if you're going to entertain me, then, hey, give me my money's worth for my ticket. So no more 290-pound, slow, non-athletic types that could have had a job before. There's always room for guys that really weren't that good before, but there really isn't now. To be on TV, you got to be, at least at a certain level of really damn good. And just a few years ago, like, with say my WWE run in 2001 through 7, whatever that was, there was always guys, the fans would complain like, oh my God, why are they trying to shove this guy down my throat? And then they would give up on him after a while and recycle someone because they liked the way that he looked or something. He was a big guy. And there's no room for that. You have to be able to really do well in today's pro wrestling world, or else you're not going to last.
But for our show, one of our mottos, I guess you would say, is it gives you the behind the scenes look of things. So for you, can you kind of give us a behind the scenes look of what it was like, for example, in the WWE or ECW when they would tell you, look, you have to turn heel, or just kind of the storylines? Like, what was that like behind the scenes?
Well, I don't think that anything comes across as like you have to. It's everything in the end has to be like a collaborative decision, even if it wasn't my idea originally. I'm obviously in charge of which foot goes forward, of my own body, so nobody can control me like a puppet. I've never been asked to do something that I didn't want to do that I did anyway. Like people, I've heard of wrestlers complaining that they were forced to work when they had concussions or they were injured and needed time off, but they forced them to keep going or whatever. I've had zero experience anywhere with that. And the whole time I was in WWE, they were super cool. When I did require knee surgery in 2005, I was out for a whole 12 months, and they paid me for the whole year off. It was like my favorite year of my career because I was home watching TV and rehabbing, and they paid for the rehab and everything as well. So they were they were very cool to me. And when it comes to ideas as far as like a heel, like I just turned heel recently with Impact Wrestling, and they asked me, what are your thoughts on this? Just like, hey, what are your thoughts on changing your music? You have any thoughts on that? It comes across like that. What do you think? At first I was like, I don't know about turning heel. I mean, because I really do connect with that positive energy from the fans, and everyone can count on me being pretty consistent, but it's not that much of a change to be a heel, just kind of show a different side of me or come from a different part in my mind that's there anyway, saying things that I would think anyway, but not say because it might be rude, and just having fun with it. But I had to come back to them, after a while. I was like, yeah, what, I thought about it. Let's do it. I think that'd be a good idea. It's like that.
I have to acknowledge you have your dog here, Petrie, extremely well tamed. Proud dog owner.
She's the best.
Amazing.
Yeah, everyone says that. She does a lot of radio interviews with me. Everyone's always surprised. They say they've never seen a dog that just chills like that. And she's so happy that I didn't leave her home right now. She's just being really good, and she's not going to jeopardize her position of being able to come out with me.
If I would have known, I would have brought some dog treats. But next time. I have to say as well, too, I guess you and I both kind of play a character. I play the Schmo, Rob Van Dam, you got the aura behind you.
Not to be confused with the Schmo.
Not to be confused with the Schmo, that's correct. Do you find it difficult at all, kind of having to put on the persona in public, or when people meet you and they think that you're not living up to the expectation that they see on television? Does that bother you at all? Does that get to you at any point?
I think that, since I've been doing it 30 years, I think that I've gotten comfortable with it, but these are thoughts that have gone through my mind. Like people are like so worked up. Say I'm doing an autograph signing that's been advertised. There's a big line to come up to my table at a convention or something like that. Some people, like, they'll be so nervous. They're crying literally. And I'm thinking, like, how could I possibly live up to the expectations of this person? Like, they're obviously, like, in their mind, I'm something that's bigger than life, and here I am, life, just a pile of flesh, wound together. But they, I think that I do pretty well as far as delivering what people expect, and I think most people expect me to be very down to earth and relatable in ways that some of the other just celebrities in general are not, and that's just me and being real. I don't know how to be anything else, you know what I mean? But then being a heel now, I can kind of tap into, like who are these people on the internet that'll follow us just to say. I had a message on social media like last week. Somebody went through the trouble of like following me and sending me this. I think it was on Twitter, and it just said, "I've never really been a big fan of yours, Rob."
I mean, people just want to be heard. People just want your attention, whether they get a positive or a negative reaction out of you. They just want you to respond.
Yeah. No, I was going to add to that because social media, it is interesting like that. Like, I even saw your Twitter, a few weeks ago. Just like haters will just say anything, right?
Yeah.
And then you respond, and then they apologize or something.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh yeah, I know." Someone said, "I forgot where I came from." Dude, I've been saying Battle Creek, Michigan from every match for 30 years, and I responded, and he was like, "Hey, yeah, I know, that's cool. I just wanted to get a response from you, man." And that is part of it,
Yeah.
But then there's also the other part where it feels like Like we're not living up to their values. You know what I mean? And it's like I don't want to. I got my own values. You know, when someone tells me that I've drawn the line, I that it's hard to not get involved with it. Sometimes you gotta just say, "Oh, I'm above that. I'm not gonna respond." But sometimes I'll go back there. Wait, I'm gonna tell this motherfucker. Who's he to tell me I've gone too far? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
When did you kind of notice the shift and social media kind of playing a huge role in the business? Because a lot of people tune in to Twitter, Instagram, and they look at people's social media pages. They try to get storylines out of people. The interaction is key now. Anybody can be somebody behind a keyboard.
Right.
When did you notice that kind of transition in the business?
When I did my return to WWE, I think it was 2013, I had found that the other young guys that were there had gone through like social media courses, like they gave them classes and stuff. And I thought, wow, that's different because I didn't, I still don't know that much about it. I'm 49. I don't know. I don't know what cancel culture is, it's really been more apparent recently, like since I've been with Impact for the last year, because like I will post stuff on my own and then I see that it gets brought like right into a storyline or something, and yeah, like the hot tub pictures that I became very famous, got a lot of viewing, and then it Impact, the storyline writers are having putting that right in there, and pretty soon I'm talking about me and my girlfriend and my girlfriend's girlfriend, and it's like people just watching the show Impact would have no idea what I'm talking about. Like that only makes sense if you saw the posts. But they thought that was valid to put in there.
Are you kind of alluding to the Twitch situation the other month?
Well, fast forwarding, yeah. I mean, that is where I'm not going to say that's where it ended because it's not over, but that is, but that is where it led to. At first it was, I don't know, like some mentions and some promos. And then Jennifer was actually helped me beat Brian Cage at the pay-per-view. She was in the crowd, so she did a rare appearance because she's not a wrestler, or an actor or anything. But that's one of the times, like for me, I'm like I realize now these guys that I'm working with are following me and want to make everything as relatable to me as they can, and that's great. That's why I'm trying to understand this cancel culture because they Impact has teamed me with Joey Ryan, the guy that does the dick flips. Yeah, which I've never been a big fan of, and I don't have to be. But the common thread is that we've both been canceled. Not that we were canceled. Twitch canceled us.
Yeah, Twitch canceled
Yeah.
you guys. Helen, what was your comments on that earlier? You were talking to me about that before the show.
No, I just mentioned exactly that.
She just said we got to watch that video.
Yeah, I mean, you're a stud. Every guy wants to be you, man. You got two beautiful women.
I got
One
photos.
bedroom. You got photos.
Hey, just don't give him ideas. But who are some wrestlers that you're really close to behind the scenes, whether you guys still work together or not?
And he shares a birthday, too, with Stone Cold Steve Austin and
Yes,
Trish
I do.
Stratus.
True that. Very true, yeah. I just saw Stone Cold last week. I did his podcast, so that'll be coming out sometime soon. Although, before I went there, I did Be Real's podcast, the Smoke Box. So I was like so baked during the Stone Cold podcast that I'm afraid to even hear because I was rambling. Sometimes in the middle of my longest sentence of just me rambling, I'd be like, he doesn't need to know this. Like, just put a period on it. Why are you saying all this? And just long ass sentences. But anyway, if you don't know what the Smoke Box is, you're in the car with Be Real and you're just smoking the whole time while he's interviewing you. And so
Sounds like something right up my alley.
Yeah, hey, it was pretty cool. But I'm very close to Katie Forbes.
Of course.
Yeah. Sabu,
Yeah.
he's all, but even though he's like closest, like he's like my brother, in the business and always will be. But even so, like he lives here and I saw him last night at Impact and I hadn't seen him for, I don't know, 3 months or so, so it's not like there's anybody that I share a life with besides Katie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone's close to an extent. There's the brotherhood, that at different levels you feel with different wrestlers. But definitely at Impact, there's a bunch of guys who let me know like right off the bat, like they were my boys.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Rich Swan and Willie Mack are super cool, and a lot of them I'm even still learning their names and stuff. But all of us ECW guys, like Tommy Dreamer, he's always going to be a brother. Sandman, yeah, not like Sabu. Like Sabu and I literally have had each other's backs in and out of the ring all over the world. Only Sabu, and he was the guy that trained me. So, you can't go back in time to beat that kind of a relationship.
What are some of your best moments? You had the feud with Eddie Guerrero, rest in peace. You won against John Cena, winning the title against him. When you look back at your storybook career, 49 years young, still doing this, what's some of those best moments?
Well, I mean, you mentioned a couple of really good ones, and beating John Cena was so good for a number of reasons. One of them was that was the top of the mountain for sure, but also bringing back ECW as a third brand, like that was all, like a seed in my head that sprouted that, you know what I mean, with the bringing ECW back and then capitalizing on it. So I felt like as far as, leaving my mark behind or something, that's a pretty cool thing to do. Like, I've always been one to, to be innovative and to make changes, changes in styles, changes by just being the nonconformist that I am. I really enjoyed having the Hardcore Championship. I really enjoyed being the TV champion in ECW because it gave me the opportunity to have the best match every night if I could. And other guys weren't really held back. Well, you think you can have a better match than me? Then, good luck. But everyone was there to see me, not just me, but I mean, the whole crowd would chant my name through the whole show till I came out. And that was like really an awesome time in my career.
And that's what I respect the most about you is that you said it yourself, being a nonconformist. You're at the top of the mountain in WWE, but you're not afraid to go to a different organization to do what you love. And I think there's not enough people out there. They think that whether you're an MMA fighter, you have to be in the UFC. You can't be in Bellator or ONE FC or some of the other promotions, that you could still make a name for yourself and have a great career and become a legend outside of the top organizations.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a better career depending on you and your values. Usually if someone is still on their way up and they haven't been to WWE, and I'm having this conversation and they're telling me, I'm working four nights a week. I think I'm doing well. I don't need them. I think I'll just stay here. Usually those guys, I'll say, you really owe it to yourself. You've made it this far to try to at least have a run up there, because it will change your whole life. You'll be wrestling in front of people in different countries that you've never even heard of because the TV's so strong, and you'll be part of their culture too. Like, we'll be big stars in places we'll never ever see. And so I usually tell them that, I've been up there and I've been wrestling so long that, I'm not in the same position. And so with my values, I really can't ask for much more. I mean, it's like the universe is really keeping me in the business by really bending towards me and my values. I can't ask for a much better schedule. I'm mostly working like 2 consecutive days a month. Sometimes there's another trip of that, but usually that's it for a whole month. I like my business deal. I can't say that that I should be hitting them for a whole lot harder. And now they bring Katie with me. So now she's booked and she goes down to the ring with me. So we don't even like have to leave each other. So it's, and the fact that I'm a big fish in a small pond gives me a lot of leverage. So it's there's not a whole lot to complain about, except for just, hey, my back's sore,
And just to point out something, Helen wanted to be a professional wrestler growing up as a kid too. She actually looked into wrestling school. She wanted to say that.
Yeah, well, I knew that Ohio Valley Wrestling at the
Yep.
time, 10 or so years ago. That was like the big thing. But I looked at this school in Texas. I don't want to name names or, talk about them, but
What part of Texas?
well, if I say
Okay.
it, then
All
it's going to I'll tell you off the show,
Okay.
but they were going to scam me and because I was going to move there and then that kind of just left a sour taste in my
Sure,
mouth. But
sure.
when I was 15, I remember even emailing or trying to, if it was his MySpace, Teddy Long, the GM of SmackDown at the time, just trying to see what I can do, right, to get a job. But
Yeah, wow, you were serious.
oh, very serious.
Yeah.
He told me I was too young, but
Yeah, sounds like you were.
yeah. But
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so you've always had that interest, huh?
yeah, well, do you think, and I don't have that interest anymore, but do you think that there's more opportunities for people to try to break into the pro wrestling business today, or
there's no
is it?
question about it.
Yeah,
You know, I don't want to be redundant, but it used to be like such a behind doors ran business. It was very much like we had our own language, and I say we, mostly the guys older than me. But when I broke in, it was still like that. You know what I mean? Like our own kayfabe language, speaking Carney. You know, and which nobody does anymore. We wanted to talk about somebody. Oh, you know, he's a Miyazaki. He's a Fizzle. Nobody would know what I'm talking about now, but. It was like so secretive, and it was best to get hurt and busted open because it just added credibility to what we were doing, and people looked at it a lot more like a fight, even when I was still getting into it. Right now, the fact that it's gone. First off, the standards of the wrestling, like I said, have gone down to normal looking people that look like maybe they'd be giving you your bowling shoes at the bowling alley, but instead they're in the ring and hey, they can do some flips or whatever. That offers everybody a chance, but also there's so many territories now, and I knew that was happening years ago because I stay out there, wrestling, and I could see all the different little areas had their own following that felt like they were part of the product. They wanted to push it, see it succeed, and there was like groups of 300 or 400 people like all over that were running continuously, and they knew all the wrestlers, had chants for all the wrestlers, and so because of that, there's so many different organizations. There's so many different wrestling schools. It's easy as hell for anybody to get into the business, which lowers the standard also of what you can expect.
And I got to imagine with social media and streaming and different platforms, there's got to be more opportunities for people to tune in to watch, whether it's live or recorded, a lot of different avenues. But I also...
It's on like every day of the week now. There's so many different groups. I'm with Impact, but there's, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, but then there's like Ring of Honor, and there's New Japan, and there's WOW, the women of wrestling. I think I've probably left. Oh, AEW. There's that one which everyone's excited. So yeah, it's really like at a big. It's at a boom right now. Wrestling's very popular again, which also makes it hard for me to walk away from it because it's pretty good. It's pretty good right now. But at the same time, yes, it's been. I don't want to say diluted, but I mean, it's gone from like a core to like a spread out across everywhere.
But what are your thoughts on AEW?
Wow, as far as a group coming up and trying to make a noise for themselves, they've hit it out of the park. Been incredible. You know what I mean? So they got a money guy behind them. And I think they're representative more of this new breed of wrestlers. But then I guess Impact probably is too. You know what I mean? Like for me, just being so old school in values, a lot of what I see, what I watch, makes me go, oh, just because that wouldn't have been okay, or I wouldn't have done that with them, But sometimes I have talks like that with Dreamer and whatever. Jericho, I don't watch. But he must have adapted, I guess, maybe to the new style because he's keeping so relevant and keeping on top, and he's a huge part of AEW. I know, but I don't know if he feels the same as I do, having the old school values, or if he just is able to just change with it and say, hey, I'm a musician, I'm a wrestler, I'm an entertainer, I can do it. I don't know.
I'd kick myself in the nuts if I didn't ask you this question because this past
I'd
week,
like to see that, by the way.
yeah,
No.
yeah,
I don't.
the flexibility there.
Right.
But this past weekend, Vince McMahon's XFL just relaunched, rebirth. They just had a whole week. I guess people were saying they like the product. Everyone
Cool.
likes football. You probably didn't. I assume you didn't get a chance to watch it. We didn't get a
No.
chance to watch it. We were busy. But do you think that his second time doing this and knowing Vince is the businessman that you do you think this one has a chance of being successful, or it will inevitably kind of fail like the first stint around?
I think that it does have a chance, just like you said, just giving Vince the credibility of being the smart businessman that he is. I don't think that he would do it again if it was a big gamble, because you'd have a lot more to lose the second time around, as far as like that's a much harder hit to take. And I think that he probably knows a lot, whether it's the public behind it, as far as like the stocks, the funding. I have no idea, but as far as business goes, I'm sure it's looking good from where he's at, or he wouldn't do it. And I didn't get to see it, but I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm not a big football fan, but I would like to see it. Just support, and see if I notice the difference.
Yeah, apparently there's some rule changes to it, and I know the NFL's taking notice, but I can't help but to not think that last year the AAF kind of launched and failed. They canceled it mid-season. Just looking at the enrollment numbers for the sport of football, they've been down over the past couple of years, and that's a trend that's going down, the enrollment to Pee Wee football, because mothers are concerned with head trauma and stuff. I don't know, and that's why I just was curious to ask you if, because there's definitely a level of risk to it, and
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know if it's going to last.
I just learned something hearing you say that, because I'm also very concerned with head trauma. That's like part of my, I don't want to say like my new mission, but it is one of mine though. It's like for me, in my movie Headstrong, which it's only on Amazon now to narrow it down and make it easy to find. It was an unintentional documentary on head trauma, because I showed up to do stand-up comedy with double vision from a concussion that wouldn't go away, and it stuck around, and I had to learn all kinds of stuff that I didn't know before about concussions. And I have had hundreds of concussions, and except for just this one that gave me double vision, I've never had a symptom that lasted very long. Usually it's a few seconds. Sometimes it would be the rest of the day. I've had maybe two that lasted a couple days. That's it. Usually it's a couple seconds. I shake it off and I just keep wrestling. I used to think it was just part of the job until I started really studying the effects it can have. So I had myself checked out. Spoiler for Headstrong. I did not show any signs of CTE, and I actually had 3 different doctors look at my MRIs. But I don't know that later in life that can't come back and set in. People use the term CTE loosely,
I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
Because I'm good friends with Merrill Hodge, and he wrote a book, Brainwashed, and he did a lot of studies. A lot of the documentation is from like Boston University. A lot of the research with head trauma comes from the same source. They don't have multiple sources looking at it, and you're only looking at football players. But I feel like if you're an MMA fighter or a boxer, you're stepping up for permanent head trauma, and even a wrestler to a degree every single time you dance inside the ring or a cage. And you got to look at the sample size. Like, it's so. You can't just blanket and say, oh, when you look at something as part of an issue in someone's brain that they're just doing this from playing a professional sport. Well, what about somebody with dementia or some sort of pre-born condition, looking at a sample size from there? He kind of points a lot into that kind of direction. So, when you just go and you say, oh, someone's got, a brain damage and call it CTE, I don't think we have enough science behind it to do that. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, CTE is a degenerative disease where your brain is wasting away. And, if you have it, your brain will die and then you will die. It's like, it's so different than having post-concussion syndrome, which a lot of people have. But a lot of my peers will say, oh, I know I have CTE because I see floaters or because I do. No, you don't, dude. You don't know that you have it. And I learned a lot about that, but I want to learn more. I want everybody to learn more. So it's important to me that we move forward with the with the research and the science. That's why it's important for me that people watch my movie. All the feedback I got from it said people were so inspired by it, and it was because I was sharing. And I know it's very personal too, and uncandid parts of my life on there, as I think any documentary should be. But when it came to talking about the brain, people still aren't comfortable talking about that. There's still pushback from where the responsibility lies and how much blame we can put on it. So I want to keep talking about that. And I was reading that like the NFL was talking about using like CBGs to regenerate dead brain tissue, and I was thinking, besides myself, all my friends have head trouble, and so many of my friends or peers have committed suicide. I mean, so many. If you look it up, pro wrestlers have committed suicide. Like, it's so many that, I thought I would like that to stop. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to end up, having a brain that's not in my control anymore and doing something, So that was actually my whole enthusiasm, inspiration behind coming up with RVDs, CBDs, because I, was putting together a bunch of stuff that could have gone that way anyway, different talks with people about doing stuff, and said, here's what I want to do. And we just have two products right now, which is a tincture and a muscle cream. Both are 3,000 milligrams, which is like twice what most of the products have. But you can't really find the correct dosage to take by looking it up, because there's no federal guidelines. It's anywhere from 20 milligram to 300 a day. And if you take 300 a day and your whole bottle has 750, that's not going to last you very long. But anyway, and my menthol's the muscle cream is the best pain cream. People say that besides me, but I have menthol in it, so you can feel it soothing right away. And but I'm always going to have that brain, that neurological protectant. That's always going to be the backbone of RVD CBD moving until we have it, and when we do have it, we'll want to improve it. I've been reading about stem cells can help with CTE and concussions and oxygen therapy and CBD, whatever it is. I think that I could put some stuff together without having as much red tape as the NFL, as much pushback, as much people to appease. And so anyway, so I'm on it. I'm learning everything I can about, and I'm taking a bunch of stuff too. Like sometimes I'll just see something on the shelf that says, hey, brain functioning, whatever. And if I haven't tried it, I'll try it.
Not afraid to experiment.
Yeah, and I know this is a touchy subject. When you mention
I love touchy subjects.
A lot of wrestlers that have committed suicide,
Yes.
I can't help but think of a very controversial one.
Chris Benoit.
Yeah, Chris Benoit. What do you think? There was a lot of debate on, if it was CTE, brain trauma, or, just want to kind of hear your thoughts on.
So Dr. Chris Nowinski, who's featured in my movie as well, he was the guy. He was the representative of wrestlers that said, yeah, we're looking at all these football players. I think it was like 119 out of 120 football players' brains had CTE that they checked. But I mean, they were brains that they were checking for it. It wasn't like out of the dressing room. But and Chris started looking at wrestlers' brains and said, hey, look, same thing. And there was pushback and denial. And so he's my guy. I donated my brain and spine to him. But he also looked at Chris Benoit's brain, and we were all like, dude, what happened? And at least it gave us an answer, not only something that we could feel comfortable with, but it makes sense too, because when people go down that path, and it seems to be with my peers, it seems to be concussions, depression, and suicide, right? And he's saying that's what happened with Chris, and I'm hearing like that when you have that dementia, your brain isn't yours anymore, and that makes sense because a lot of my friends are killed. I mean, I'm thinking Mike Awesome was a good friend of mine. He hung himself. Ashley Massaro was a good friend of mine. She hung herself just last year. Yeah.
I was so sad to read that.
So and another guy in the UK wrestles his Lionheart, and boom, he hung himself, and I never see it coming, and I'm thinking, well, I guess that makes sense. Then maybe it's not your brain anymore, because what else could explain it? But the science said that Chris Benoit's brain was deteriorated much like a 70-year-old with dementia, and it's similar. That's why with whatever I can come up with, CBGs, CBDs, moving forward, there's like 100 components of the marijuana plant. We're only talking about like 5 now. Always been THC. Now we're talking about CBD, CBN, but it's because it's illegal to study it.
It's crazy how now,
Yeah.
in the past couple of years, the legalization, the push of marijuana, when for decades,
Yeah.
it seems like it just had been blackballed.
There's so much more to learn.
So much more, whether it was the tobacco or the alcohol industry shutting it down. Now there's the regulation. Everyone wants to be a part of it.
Dude, I brought you guys RVD CBD
Oh, I
samples.
appreciate that.
thank
We
you.
appreciate that.
Yes.
I do
Awesome.
want to go more to a positive note because the last time I interviewed you, or I guess the Schmo interviewed you, I did say that I'll take a 5-star frog splash. We get
I
into
seem
the
to
ring.
remember that.
Yes, so we do have to get that done one way or another. I have to take it. I'm going to put my life in your hands. We'll do the stunt. You live once, right? YOLO. We'll make it happen.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. We got to get that done, and Helen will watch. And maybe I'll have to use some of your Rob Van Dam
RVD
CBD afterwards, depending on where you land.
Check it out. This is a representative of my pain cream, but this one is actually it's made with a process called nanoemulsification, which they attach it to water, and then it's absorbed better by your body. So we're always moving forward. If someone says, "Hey, your product, maybe you thought it was the best, but I got something that's a little better," then I want to hear it. I want to make mine the best. So pretty excited about it.
I love it. I love it. Just once, because we have to do it to the show. Can you do an RVD for us?
See if I can remember how that goes. Rob Van Dam with a little delay on the screen. I like it.
Positive guy. I guess I'll just conclude a couple of questions for you. Some closing questions, comments.
Let's have it.
Realistically, best case scenario.
Hardballs, come on.
Hardballs. How much longer do you have in the sport? How much left you got in the tank?
Not very much, dude. I mean, I've been saying that for so long, but I've also said that the universe is going to let me know. And as I mentioned, it's been letting me know, like, now's a good time to be RVD in many ways. But it's also letting me know that I think that, things are going to make a change, like, real soon for me as far as what I'm focusing on and spending my energy. And that's a roundabout way of me saying, maybe 15 matches. I don't know. I don't know. I just know that's what I'm obligated for right now on my schedule.
No more WWE run in the future?
No way possible. That schedule, I couldn't do it. And we talked about values and how people would think that's the top. It is the number one show that, from the way people will see it, it's the standard setter. But the values that you have as a fan would change if that's what you do as a business. It's not like I can be excited and be like, "Oh my God, I'm dressing next to the Undertaker. Oh my God, yes, oh my God, Big Show's in a towel. This is so awesome." It's not like that at all. So then it's about the monotony of the job, because you're working like pretty much every single day. I'd have like 1 or 2 days off a week to get home and back, and I was totally exhausted. And no, I'm definitely done with that part of my career as far as being on that schedule. I would love to do like a one-off thing, like the Raw reunion. I just came out and did that. That was easy.
That's great. That's great. And where can all the fans, the listeners, the people watching, where can they find you? I know we got your Twitter lower third for those watching. Where can we find you?
Yeah, everywhere. I'm at The Real RVD. And follow RVD CBD on Instagram. They do a way better job of posting than I do. We had a sweet party the other night, too, to launch RVD CBD.
We would have been there if we were in town. We
you
were in
guys missed a good
Houston.
one.
I heard it was the best party ever.
That's what people are saying.
Next time.
People are saying, it was really good. Yeah, but yeah, definitely, it looks like this. And by the way, spoiler, I guess, or no, I don't know, inside info, maybe. Psst, hey, I'm soon going to venture into RVD THC as well. And by soon, I mean April 20th.
Love it. 420.
Yes.
This guy has got it down, and I'm so impressed with Petrie, by the way. Just sitting here for like nearly 45 minutes, just still great sport.
I got my bitches in control.
A lot of people can agree to that with what went down recently. We're going to wrap this thing up. He's RVD, Rob Van Dam. I'm Dave Schmulenson, the Schmo.
And I'm Helen Yee Sports.
This is the Schmozone. We're out.